Joining us on the program now from Christian Savings, Andy Milne. Kia ora, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Kia ora, Andrew, great to be with you.
This is a complicated topic, and it's one that for most people think, oh gosh, if there's tariffs, does that mean that my imports cost more, or perhaps we're not going to get such a good price for our exports, or maybe a bit of both?
Yeah. Look, at a high level, Andrew, so the way the tariffs work, they are a charge that President Trump is imposing on all products manufactured offshore coming into the US. And his aim in putting these tariffs in place is to make imports more expensive and thereby sort of promote US manufacturing, US production.
Yep.
Of course, the downside of that is that those those positive impacts take time to flow through if they ever do, and the costs are always borne by consumers. So in the short term, the US economy is going to see, quite rapid price inflation. He's talked about, for example, 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. He's sort of currently just pushed pause on those.
Yep.
But sort of more seriously, a 10% tariff on all imports from China, 25% tariffs on steel and aluminium worldwide.
Yeah.
And just last night, he's now talking about 200% tariffs on wine and spirits from the EU if he doesn't get his way there. So, potentially quite a lot of impact. So, that in the short term, that's going to drive up prices in the US.
Mm-hmm.
It's also going to spark worldwide, it could lead to a trade war because Canada, Mexico, China, they've all imposed their own sort of reciprocal or retaliatory tariffs on US exporters. And that's, like in any war, the impacts are always borne by civilians. So it's going to have, a worldwide impact. And we've already started to see that here in New Zealand. The first order impacts have sort of been on our Kiwisaver accounts.
Yep.
The US markets, stock markets generally are fearful of uncertainty, which these new tariffs have brought in. They've reacted by dropping quite significantly, and that's going to have an impact on our Kiwisaver markets.
What's the connection with that one, Andy? Because some people are going, okay, I get that aluminium prices or wine prices may be up, but how does tariffs impact Kiwisaver? Is that will American investors looking for a safe haven as the stock market tanks, or what's happening there?
Well, I guess it's just that our Kiwisaver funds are invested not just here in New Zealand, but they're invested in worldwide stock markets. And as the US, primarily it's been the US stock market that has reacted most negatively because of the threat of that these tariffs may provoke a recession.
Yep.
In the US, which could have spillover effects worldwide. That's affected the stock market, which has affected our Kiwisaver results because they are in part exposed to the US markets. There are other potential quite serious impacts for New Zealand if this thing continues to spread. Now we do actually, surprisingly enough, we do export a little bit of steel and aluminium to the US, not a huge amount, so there's a direct impact there. But Trump has talked in passing about potentially broadening that 25% tariff to cover not just steel and aluminium, but their entire agricultural sector.
Yep.
Now, if that happens, last year the US overtook China as New Zealand's largest export market for red meat.
Yep.
So if that were to come to pass, that would be quite a serious impact on New Zealand's agricultural sector. So, while, the other impacts, there are sort of some second order impacts. So, for example, if the Chinese economy starts to struggle, in terms of this, these tariffs imposed by the US, it could result in China's demand for our export products decreasing. So, there are, potential, while we're largely a bystander to, what could be, a trade war between China, the US, the EU, while we're largely a bystander, we could get dragged in and see some potential negative effects. The one bright spot potentially could be that global recession can, in some situations, lead to decreases in borrowing costs. So interest rates, we may see interest rates continue to come down, maybe come down faster. So then, there may be a very small silver lining.
We're working hard to find the bright spot in that regard. Just wanting to mention also huge tariffs, ridiculous tariffs on European wine. I know much of the South Island now is a wine industry rather than an economy. And the US is a huge export market for almost all of that product. Could we see something similar happening there?
Again, potentially, depending on how things go, it could go one or two ways. If the tariff is confined to European wine, it could be a net positive for our wine exports, because the US is a strong market for our wine exporters.
Yes.
However, if the tariff is broadened to all wine and spirits imports, again, significant potential impact.
So
there
it's
for
a bit
us.
of a wait and see. Again, scratching around for some more bright spots on this one, Andy. Is it possible also that if we've got a shut door, or certainly difficult trading conditions with the US, and China's also got a shut door, that may open more export opportunities for China? China doesn't want US products. Maybe they want more of ours instead. Is that potentially possible?
There is definitely potential there. There will be potential for us to replace US produced primary goods, agriculture. There is upside potential. Christopher Luxon's currently leading a trade delegation in India. So we may be able to shift some of our production from other economies towards India. So there are potential ways that we could mitigate the impacts in those ways as well.
And I suppose it just shows that you shouldn't have all your eggs in one basket, as it were, or metaphorical eggs. Probably real eggs as well.
Absolutely. We're a small cork bobbing on the ocean of the world economy. So the more we can do to diversify our economy, our exports, the better.
Now, Winston Peters, of course, Deputy Prime Minister, he's hoping to achieve diplomatic miracles in the United States at the moment. Australia, who, arguably are a closer ally than New Zealand, got the no-go-away signal. It would be perhaps naive to be optimistic at Winston Peters' chances of success, although he's been underestimated before.
Well, that's right. Rule them out at your peril, I guess, Andrew. The current US government doesn't seem to put a lot of faith in free trade, which has obviously been New Zealand's, catch cry for some time. However, if they, I guess Trump's mantra has been, we'll punish those who punish us in terms of the tariffs. So given that, we have by and large a very, very low friction, tariff regime here, it could mean good news for us, but it's very much a wait and see. Too soon to call for us, I think.
Okay, well, we'll scratch around to see if we can find some more reason to be optimistic as this situation continues to unfold. But Andy, thank you very much for your insight and explanation of this issue. Of course, if people want to find out more about the work that you do at Christian Savings, christiansavings.co.nz. Andy, thanks for your time.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Andrew.
Hey, thanks very much for joining us in the Rhema studio. Thanks very much for watching the interview. It's kind of nice to have an audience, actually. And if you did like what you watched, then do give us a like, do give us the thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more interviews like that one, or perhaps even better, subscribe and those interviews will come straight to you. Don't forget to turn on your notifications, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.